I had well over 200 projects on my list, and every project probably had 5 to 10 action steps on them. So my to-do list was literally wake up, prioritize, the 70 things that I quote needed to do that day. And then by the end of the day, still have 60 of them left to do. And I've added 20 more things on the list. And so it was just this never ending battle of, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, and really this scarcity mentality of, and shame on me mentality, like what's wrong with me that I can't get everything done. And the truth is there will always be more to do than you can get done in a single day. In fact, if you get to the end of the day and you're like, I've checked everything off of every list, then you're probably dead at that point, right? We will always have more to do.
Welcome to the Positive Productivity Podcast, episode 669. The Positive Productivity Podcast was created to empower entrepreneurs to achieve and appreciate personal and professional success. I'm your host, Kim Sutton, and if you're ready, let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Positive Productivity. I almost forgot my podcast name. You know we're not about perfection here. Sometimes I forget my own name. I barely ever know how to pronounce the guest name properly, but today that won't be difficult. I'm here with Garland Vance, and I want to share with you that I wish we had had a conversation 4 years ago, but I don't even know, Garland, if you would have been able to have the same conversation 4 years ago. Would you?
No, I think I would have been able to tell you a little bit about my experience, but I don't think we could have had as rich and as meaningful of a conversation as we're going to have.
Yeah. So Garland and I, we met a couple weeks ago, just going to be totally honest with you listeners, and just realized, we need to have this episode. But if you haven't already heard previous episodes, episode number 5 talks about sleep. And actually, if you are sleep deprived, just pause this podcast right now and go take a nap. And I am not even kidding, because episode 5 talks about how I had serious sleep deprivation. And Garland, you and I didn't really even jump into that, but 4 years ago was the ultimate low in my journey. I was so sleep deprived that I was suicidal.
Oh, wow.
And that was, God saved me. That's all I can say is God saved me. But it took me another 3 years to stop being busy. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today. The listener who is too busy, like you don't even know how you are listening to this episode. You don't know how you clicked over here. It's in your queue or it popped up on your YouTube. This episode is for you. So Garland is the author, let me try that again, of Getting Unbusy, which I am maybe an eighth of the way through, because it's been a busy week in my house. I mean, I'm just going to timestamp it. Okay. It's August of 2020. I've got a kid who surprisingly made the varsity soccer team. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm just like, okay, are we actually going to have games this year?
Yeah.
But if we don't, that wouldn't be bad for my calendar. But at the same time, like I've been reading your book, you talk about missing that winning soccer goal. I missed dozens and dozens of winning soccer goals because I wasn't even at the game because I was saying yes to every other thing.
Yeah.
Garland, would you mind diving in? And I love the story that you shared, right at the beginning of the book. So would you mind diving into how you came to write the book?
Sure. So I've always been a type A personality. I mean, when you talk about productivity, I promise that's like my middle name. Is I just love productivity. I love getting things done. I love feeling like I'm making progress toward things. My wife asked me years ago, how do you define a good day? And I said, a good day is defined by the number of tasks I check off my list. But if you go back to 2013, I started having all of these physical problems, and to the point where I started getting really scared and decided I'm going to go see my doctor. So I go see Dr. Tate, I say, listen, doc, I've got a lot of things going on. And he says, well, tell me what's going on. And I said, well, first I'm having chronic migraine headaches, about 3 migraine headaches a week where I just have to go to bed and sleep. That's the only thing that I can do. I said, second, I'm having heart palpitations. I'll literally be sitting at my desk checking email. And all of a sudden I start pouring sweat. My heart starts racing. I don't know what in the world is going on. Said that the third problem that I'm having is I'm having all of this forgetfulness. My wife and I will have a conversation about something really important, and the next day she'll reference it and I'll have no idea what she was talking about. But now, Kim, at that moment, he stopped me and he said, Garland, that's called being a man. I'm not real concerned about that one, but what else?
I was just about to say, that sounds like every single day in my house. Sweetie, yeah. I love you. By the way, my husband was the most recent subscribers to my YouTube, so there's a chance.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But he's like that. He'll just forget.
Yeah. So the doctor was like, I'm not really concerned with that one, but tell me what else is going on. And so I began to just talk about the exhaustion that I was having. I would wake up exhausted. I would go to bed exhausted. It didn't matter how much I slept. I was tired all the time. And the worst part was I wasn't telling him about how I was doing emotionally. I wasn't telling him about how I was frustrated with my children and disengaging in my relationship with my wife. And so all of a sudden, Dr. Tate said to me, Garland, this sounds pretty bad. Tell me about your life. And I said, oh, I've got a really good life. It's just really busy, right? And how many of us say that all the time, right? Somebody asks us, how are you doing?
I never say that.
People, it's just so common where, you run into a friend at Starbucks or something, and all of a sudden, you say, how are you? And they say, I'm good. I'm just really busy. So I said, oh, I've got this good life. I'm just really busy. And he said, well, tell me what busy means. And I started telling him about my 50 to 60 hour work weeks that I was doing with one of Chick-fil-A's nonprofits, the 10 to 20 hours a week I worked on my doctorate in leadership that I was working on at the time, having young kids at home, 3 of them, and them being involved in the community, and traveling about 60 days a year between work and school, and helping out with our church, and just began to list out all of these activities. And once I did, I finished and said, like I said, I'm good. I'm just busy. And Dr. Tate looked me in the eye and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Garland, I'm concerned for your life. And what's going on? Is it a brain tumor? Do I have some heart disease? What's happening here? And he said, you are killing yourself. Mm-hmm. And you're stressed out. And the reason that you're stressed is because you're so busy. And I said, but yeah, Dr. Tate, everybody's busy. And he said, I know, and it's killing us all. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was a wake-up call of maybe this busyness that I brag about, that we all talk about, maybe it's not as good as I think it is. And so I ended up doing the rest of my doctoral research around this topic of busyness and what it's doing to us physically, mentally, emotionally, and what it's even doing to our productivity and the companies that we work for. And that's how Getting Unbusy came to be.
I love it. So, so that was 2016.
2013, yeah.
Well, for me, when I was at the lowest, I love the parallels here. So 2016 was when I started to realize 2018, I still wasn't any better. I was so busy being busy that I wound up in the ER 4 times and admitted to the hospital once.
Oh, wow.
And then at the end of 2019, yes, I am 8 months into being unbusy and I love it. But at the end of 2019, I went to my doctor, who's amazing. I would recommend to every listener, and I'm not a healthcare professional, go get your own healthcare advice. But if your doctor doesn't have more than 5 minutes of time for you, please look for a new doctor.
Yeah, they're too busy, right? They're so busy that they don't have time to actually provide care for you.
Yeah, and my doctor's amazing. Just shout out to Dr. Luke McCoy, but he sat down because I went in. I wanted an anti-anxiety medication. It's the end of 2019, but I was just so busy being busy, and I was so stressed out. And he actually wrote me a prescription for 30 minutes of exercise a day, 5 days a week. I was like, I hate to exercise. He's like, well, how much are you sleeping? How much time are you taking for you? Are you remembering to breathe?
Mm,
That's been a huge one for me.
yeah.
Remembering, like, I'll find myself holding my breath still to this day, but I'm not
Yeah.
busy. I just
Yeah.
it's what happens when I get into something and I'm like, oh, I wonder when the last time was that I exhaled. So when you finished up your doctorate and
So I finished it in 2016.
okay, and how was the thesis accepted? Like,
So it was accepted really well, and so you write this academic paper and citing all of these resources, and I was doing my doctorate in a seminary. So I went to Denver Seminary, and so I had to provide not only the science and the psychology and the physiology, but I also had to provide the biblical basis for it. And Getting Unbusy, the book, is not written as a Bible book, but
mhm.
there's a whole lot in there that is influenced by that. And so I think my committee just really walked away saying, "This is awesome." And the chair of my committee was a guy named John. And he said, "Garland, you've absolutely convinced me that busyness is bad. I've read this paper so many times. Like, busyness is literally killing us, and there is something that we can do about it."
I don't know my books of the Bible very well, but I was listening to a sermon this past week because I've often thought about if Jesus was stressed,
Yeah.
right? But one of the disciples went to get him and he said, "No, I'm going to go.
Mm.
He's going to go and be by himself for a little bit." And I think that's a struggle for us all. We
Yeah.
see that to-do list and we're stressed out of our minds. I got to the point where I was staying up. I mean, sleep deprivation. I was sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. I would be
Mm.
sitting here and I keep on looking over there because that's where my computer was at the time. But I remember falling asleep working so many
Yeah.
times. My eyes would be crossing and I would wake up and it just took so much more time to get anything done because I was exhausted, because I was too busy, because my mind was everywhere. What did your to-do list look like when you were busy? I mean, was it everything and
Oh, it
anything
was
on there?
so first I would say, I organize everything by projects. And David Allen is the author of this book called Getting Things Done. And he talks about that most people have between 50 and 100 projects at any time on their list. I had well over 200 projects on my list, and every project probably had 5 to 10 action steps on them. So my to-do list was literally wake up, prioritize, the 70 things that I quote needed to do that day, and then by the end of the day still have 60 of them left to do,
Uh-huh.
and I've added 20 more things on the list. And so it was just this never ending battle of, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, and really this scarcity mentality
Mhm.
of, and shame on me mentality. Like, what's wrong with me that I can't get everything done? And the truth is, there will always be more to do than you can get done in a single day. In fact, if you get to the end of the day and you're like, I've checked everything off of every list, then you're probably dead at that point, right?
Right,
Like, we
right.
will always have more to do. But getting unbusy was about first getting a lot of those commitments off my plate so that it became a lot more manageable mentally and physically. But then also beginning to give a lot of grace and compassion to myself, to say, I'm driving hard, I'm pushing hard, and I'm getting a lot done. I'm just not meeting my own expectations. So my
Mm.
expectations need to change.
When you said projects earlier, can you define what you mean by projects? Because I think different people interpret that word differently.
Yeah. So David Allen's definition of projects is, it's anything that you have that requires two or more actions to get done. So, um, changing the water filter in your refrigerator could be a project, because you have to remove it, you have to buy a new one, you have to install it, you have to reset it. So that could be a project. And I've just always been, since adulthood, a person who writes down every project and every action item so I don't have to remember them. But when you're looking and you're going, I have 200 projects that need to get done, and I feel like they should all be done yesterday, there's a problem.
So I'm not working on writing my book right now because I can't remember if you and I talked about this
We
before,
didn't talk
but
about this, no.
my book is called Chronic Idea Disorder, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Overcoming Idea Overwhelm.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I go into the bathroom and I get another idea. I go into my car and I get another idea. And it was really dangerous. That's why I wasn't sleeping, because I was getting all these ideas. And within 5 minutes, I already have the domain. I've installed WordPress on the site. And it doesn't matter that I already had 40 open projects.
Yeah.
So, I'm not working on my book right now because I have other projects that I'm working on that I need to wrap up first. But I went for years in my business because I was so busy being busy on so many projects that I was constantly in the red. Nothing was ever getting completed.
Yeah.
I was overcommitting to everybody. I loved what I read in your book about forgetting to pick up the eggs.
Yeah.
I was so busy that I did not hear my daughter one night cracking a whole carton of 18 eggs on the kitchen floor, because I was so in my head and in everything else. But my to-do list used to be about 60 items. And anything that popped up in my head had to go down on paper.
Yeah.
So this is okay. There's going to be a cuss word in here, listeners. If you have kids, put your earbuds in here. It's not the F word though. So I was working with a team member and we realized that we really needed a get shit done list. That's the cuss word. So if that's not going to offend
now
your
you can
kids,
take
then
your
take it
earphones out, right?
Yeah. But so I'm just going to call it the GSD list now. So, and this is so TMI, I'm sorry, but I was writing everything down in there and still I was focusing on the not so important tasks. And this is last summer. This is about a year ago. I was taking a shower. All the ideas come in the shower in the bathroom.
Right.
But I swear to goodness that God spoke to me in the shower and he said, I did not put you here. Put the headphones back in. I did not put you here to get shit done. My
That's
God.
so good.
My God swears at me, okay, and gets the point across. So he said, I put you here to take prioritize purposeful actions. So rename those documents now. So I got out of the shower, came out here and renamed the Google Docs where I kept a list. But in that very moment, in shifting it from GSD to prioritize purposeful actions, I realized that cleaning out my inbox did not belong on a prioritized purposeful action list.
Yeah.
And it just instantly trimmed itself down. And even now, I'm honestly not using the PPA lists. My friend Debbie and I are doing good, better, best goals for the day. So, our good, I have 5 areas that I focus on. Wealth building activities, business, spiritual, body, and family.
Nice.
So I'm focusing on 5 tasks at the beginning of the day, and better, good, better, best. I'm this far into my coffee. Better, has 2 for each of those categories, and best has 3. And I give myself rewards for for having a whole good week. This is not gonna be a whole good week because I got squirreled into something. So, but I'm doing my best and I'm not going back to giving myself grace.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not squandering my time, then I'm good with that. I'm going to give the mic back to you for a second, but I also realized I read Danny Johnson's Spirit Driven Success last year.
Okay. I haven't read that one. I haven't.
It's amazing. And one of the things that she talks about is working as though you do, working for God. And in that moment, it was like an automatic shift because when I'm so busy, I give half focus and half effort to everything because I'm spreading myself so thin. But the second that, and I have a post-it on my monitor that says work as though for God. So I'm putting my full 100%, 99% effort in whenever I'm working now. And it's so much better.
That's awesome. I tell a story in the book, and I think you're going to love this. Just the correlation. I actually took off 9 months from writing Getting Unbusy. I had started the process of it, and my family was living in Texas at the time, and we had wonderful friends, but we were miserable for everything else. Didn't love my job. Didn't love our house, didn't love the neighborhood where we were living. And we had been there about a year and just said, this is ridiculous, or I guess about 2 years, and said, this is ridiculous. We're miserable. Why are we doing this to ourselves? And so we made the commitment at that time that we were going to move to East Tennessee, which was actually my wife and I's retirement goal. And we were like, why are we going to wait until retirement? Let's move there now and build our lives around the place that we want to live. So anyway, here I am, I'm writing this book about getting unbusy, and I look and I'm like, okay, we're going to pack a house, sell a house, move, buy a house, move into a house, relocate our kids' schools, build new relationships. And I'm supposed to be writing a book about getting unbusy at the same time. And so I just ended up saying, I'm taking 9 months off. And every 3 months or so, I would reevaluate. Is it time to pick up the book? Is it time to pick up the book? And we gave our full attention to the moving process, to getting our business up and running as we were moving, and put the book on hold. And then 9 months later, I came back. And this just shows you the power of focus. I reread the book and said, I'm not happy with it. And I wrote the first complete rewrite in 4 days, and just really pounded it out in 4 days. And it took 7 more drafts to get there. But just knowing, hey, it's okay to put that book on hold right now. It's okay to put really big goals on hold, because there's other things that are more important for you to do right now.
I'm curious, as an entrepreneur yourself, how have you determined what goal you're going after? Because I went through a journey of chasing only financial goals,
Mm,
and saying yes to everything that involved money.
yeah.
And when I finally switched that to doing stuff that felt good, working with people who were good, and that's open to interpretation for anybody, but I found that I have to work with people who have integrity that aligns
Yeah.
with mine. And when
Yeah.
I started doing that, it was like, whew,
Yeah.
and that's just this year.
Yeah. And that's so good. Yeah, for me, I mean, money's a part of it. You've got to, so we have financial goals, and my wife and I own our business together. And so we have financial goals. But we actually talk about impact goals as being the priority. So our impact goals are, how do we impact people's lives, whether we get a return on that or not? And so whether it's, you don't make a whole lot of money off of a book, you make money off of all the other things that come with writing a book. But we've just said we want to impact people's lives. And so sometimes that means we're doing things for free. And sometimes that means we're doing things for a lot of money, but you can't say yes to everything. That's a big part of the book. You've got to learn to say no to a lot. But for us, it's about impact first, and then secondarily about the finances.
So we haven't talked about this before. I didn't realize that you're in business with your wife. First, I
Yeah.
want to know, how does that work? Sorry, wife, I don't want to get you into. My husband he was in my business for a little bit, but it's better for us to have our own businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, it works really well. We did, when I was with Chick-fil-A's, one of Chick-fil-A's nonprofits, we actually worked together for 15 years, and we work really, really well together. I'm very task focused. I'm very driven. She's highly relational and cares about the team and the people. And so when you put us together, I tend to be the person who focuses on, okay, what are the results that our clients need and how do we get them there? And she's the one who focuses on, how do we develop the relationships with our clients that are going to make results even better? And so that works out really, really well. And for us, it's just a lot, we've had years and years and years of refining it and working it out. So in the early stages, we had a lot of fights around work. And then when we started our business, we really just kind of knew our separate places and how we work together. So we identify our priorities together, create the plan, which is kind of my part of it is, okay, here's the plan. Here's what you need to do. Here's what I need to do. And then we go do our thing and come back together.
Hey there, my friend. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Positive Productivity Podcast.
I wanted to take a quick moment to invite you to join the Work Smarter, Not Harder Challenge. Over the course of 30 days, these free, yes, free, short videos will teach you a few of the systems and strategies I set up in my business so I can get away from my computer and back to the people I love. I invite you to sign up now at worksmarternotharderchallenge.com. Again, you can sign up at worksmarternotharderchallenge.com.
So I started my business because my husband was starting school to get his independent game designer degree.
Okay.
So he's an incredible artist, but it's very game. If I,
Yeah.
so, and when I work with business and life coaches, I haven't yet worked with one who wanted their whole brand to look like a, 2D old schooler platform game.
Right.
So
No, that would be totally cool. That would be amazing.
Pat Flynn is probably the closest. I love what he's done with his with his personal site now. Go check it out, listeners. I'll put it in the links. But so that's how we were working together. I would get a request for a logo, and he would design something, and his artwork again is amazing, but it's just not aligned with what my clients want. So now he finished his degree, and now he's working on his games, and it's the same here. Like there's been times that he's the designer, he needs a developer. If you're watching this and you know of a great independent game developer, please send me a message, okay? Because that's where my husband needs help.
Nice.
And I've thought about coding, learning to code, because I know all the tech stuff, and I'm like, no. Yeah. God's purpose for me is not to code my husband's video games. I don't want to learn it. That's not, I've realized, this whole journey since that, time in July 2016 to now has made me realize what my purpose is. I think I went, how old was I then? 37. I'm 41 now. Those first 37 years, I had no idea what my purpose was. I thought my purpose was to make money and support my family by saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
That's a sad place to be in.
Yeah. And it'll get you in a load of trouble. When in the book, I talk about there's 5 steps to it. And one of the steps is you've got to deconstruct. And I talk about the busy people tend to default to yes. They say yes to everything. And especially, really giving people almost this feeling of obligation. Like, if you ask me to do it, I have to say yes. When really, if we want to get unbusy, which means this positive, purposeful, productive action on what's most important to us, if we want to do that, then we have to learn to what I call default to no. And that's when somebody asks me to do something, my immediate response, even if I don't say it out loud, my immediate response is, no, that's not going to happen unless you can prove to me that it should happen. And so all of a sudden, the burden of proof is on convincing me that I should do it. That alone will free up so many hours worth of time and free you from so many unwanted commitments, because you're just willing to say, no, I'm not convinced.
I found myself, and this was where the huge transition at the end of 2019 came in, that, I was saying yes way too much. And in essence, I was enabling my clients to be lazy by taking care of everything for them. I allowed scope creep to go ridiculously out of hand, to the point of hundreds of hours of unpaid work.
Oh, wow.
Just to give you an idea, listeners, what happens when you don't reserve your no's, that resulted in us going into foreclosure at the end of 2019. We recovered, we got out, but that was scary. And that was like a big lesson to me. But I realized, by continuously saying yes to people, I'm enabling them. And this is going to sound really cruel, cold. I don't want to enable laziness anymore. For my clients anyway, because I do marketing and business automation, if it's really your business, then move your butt and do stuff. Don't expect me to do it all for free, because I just won't anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to get it. Excuse me, you're going to get a revised contract and another invoice. So and along that, I also learned that in all those hundreds of hours that were given away to one person for free, I could have absolutely been refocusing that to producing content for free for the masses. So while there's a lot of people struggling to think what they could do for these past, how many months are we into it now? Like 5 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, heck no. I might have more non-client time right now, but I have so many ideas. Let's just work on the YouTube. Let's work on the podcast. Let's, build the brand, blog articles, all that stuff, so I can be helping the masses, because the more I help, and these are the people I want to align with, the ones who are willing to give it away for free, like you were talking about, impactfully. But the more that we give for free, I'm going to say to the masses, they can't do it all. They shouldn't do it all. So they'll come back and ask for support that they can pay us for in the future. And that's totally acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
What are you excited about in the next, in the next 90 days? And let's pretend that quarantine's not going on.
Sure. So I would say in the next 90 days, I'm excited. So I just, even as we're recording this, I'm actually in the process of launching or relaunching my 30-day Getting Unbusy online course. And so for most people, what I started realizing as I was helping people get unbusy, and for me, it took years. It was 2013 when I realized it. It was about 2018 where I finally took a step back and was like, oh, okay, not only do I know what busyness is, not only do I know how to get unbusy, but I can actually say I live an unbusy life. It took me 5 years to do that. And I was, and really the big reason I was able to do that is because I had a doctoral committee breathing down my neck, like, you have to do this, you have to get this done. And so I wanted to convert it. So instead of it taking 5 years, it would take less than 5 weeks for a person to go from stressed and overwhelmed and exhausted to purposeful, productive, and peaceful, because they've gotten unbusy. So that's one thing I'm
say those 3 P's again. I just want people to hear that.
Yeah. So, and it's part of the subtitle of the book is purpose, productivity, and peace. So purpose is knowing your why. Productivity is doing your why. And then peace is resting in your why. In other words, I know why I exist, and I'm okay with saying no to all of these other opportunities because they don't advance my big why in the world. So yeah, that's one thing I'm super excited about, is the 30-day Getting Unbusy course that really takes people through in a very short period of time how to get unbusy. So very excited about that. And then just having the opportunity to work with more and more coaching clients who will say, hey, maybe I can't do it in 30 days. I just need smaller chunks of time. And so I'll have started doing more and more coaching with individuals and even with families on how do you get unbusy at home, at work, and really implement it into every area of your life.
I love that you brought up families. I don't know if you know, but my friend Richie and I launched the Purposeful Parentpreneur podcast earlier this year. Yeah. So we'll talk about that after this, but we're really looking at families and how entrepreneurial parents or parentpreneurs can interweave their family with it without disconnecting from their family.
Yeah.
And it all came about because we also realized that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that we often hide. I mean, listeners, before we hopped on, Garland said that your back deck.
Yeah, back deck right now.
Your back deck might be destroyed. And I am so past perfection. I mean, my cat was doing nasty stuff right behind me during a Facebook Live yesterday. So I'm way past that. But we were on a call a couple years ago, and one of my kids screamed at the other one of the kids, "I'm going to kill you." And they were like 4 years old. And he's like, "Do you need to go take care of that?" And I was like, "Oh no, they're just playing Roblox and they're screaming across the house from one computer to the other." He's like, "This is totally the stuff that people need to hear."
Yeah.
Because so often, and I'm over here even muting while I'm coughing, or my kids are being surprisingly quiet right now. But I'd love to talk to you about that, because as a mom of 5, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. Some days. I mean, I've got a 17-year-old who's looking at colleges. I have a 14-year-old who made the varsity soccer team. I have a first grader who's about to start soccer, and she did Girl Scouts to remind me to come back to Girl Scouts. And then I have kindergartners this year. Yeah. So I'm going to have another Girl Scout and a Boy Scout. And then the boy wants to do karate. And I think I read, maybe it was the client that you were talking to, but when I was being raised, my family couldn't afford to put me in stuff. If
Yeah.
when I wanted to take dance classes, I had to pay for it myself. And that's something that I haven't wanted for my kids to experience. But there's that line, right? I'm
Yeah.
not signing them each up for 5 things. Like, it's pushing me to have the first grader in both soccer and Girl Scouts. And I told you I would come back to Girl Scouts last year when I was going through all this busy stuff. She wanted to join Girl Scouts. We went to the intro meeting, and I was sitting there thinking, I need to control what night these meetings are on.
Yeah.
How am I going to do that? And then I got the brilliant idea. Why don't I become a troop leader?
And
Talk
you've done
about
that?
busy. Oh, I did
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
did it.
Well,
So
yeah. So by
thankfully,
controlling the calendar in one area, you actually added a whole host of commitments in other areas.
yes, thankfully, I mean, I have an awesome co-troop leader, and she managed all the cookie sale stuff this
Nice.
year. But for any mom who has a daughter who might be going into Girl Scouts, I want to let you know that if your business is busy, and I mean busy right now in a good way, not in a bad way, but if your life is already busy, do not commit to being a leader. Okay?
Mm,
It's a lot of work. I mean, I
yeah.
think she probably spent 100 hours, if not more, on cookie stuff.
Oh,
And
I believe
I'm
it.
I'm trying to find how to milk 100 hours out of my month to create my course. I love
Yeah.
your course. I want to know how I can promote it because I can think of so many people who could need it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in your family, how do you control busyness within your family now?
Yeah. So first thing I would say is you're going to love it when you get toward the end of my book. I actually have an entire chapter on drawing your family into unbusyness. So I think there are a couple of ways that we've controlled it as a family. First is my wife, Dorothy, and I really had to embrace our authority as parents. We had to say, you know what, if we were if our family was a company, we would be the CEOs and we would be responsible to create the culture that we felt was good for our company. Well, it's the same as a parent. I am responsible as a parent for the culture that I create. And so the first thing that we did is we just started talking about being unbusy, and we turned busy into a bad word for our family. So that was the first part, is just embracing our authority as parents. And then the second part was, as we started talking about unbusyness, we had to help our entire family change the way that we thought about our family. I think a lot of parents tend to think of each kid as an individual, right? And
Oh
so,
yeah.
for my oldest son, well, it's not too hard for Calvin to, do these 3 activities. And it's not too hard for Sophie, my middle child, to do these 3 activities. And then Toby, these 3 activities. Well, all of a sudden, we have 9 activities between the 3 of them, or among the 3 of them. And then that doesn't even include anything that Dorothy and I want to do. So we really had to shift our thinking as a family to think of ourselves as a single unit and not as individuals within this unit. And so it started just becoming something where we would say, okay, let's look at the seasons, right? If one kid is involved in soccer, the season for that is, from February until late May. And so that means that our other 2 kids during that time are going to diminish some of their activities a little bit. And so we just started really thinking of ourselves as a unit, and that had a huge effect on us. And then the third thing that we did is we started prioritizing together over to do. And what I mean by that is, instead of saying, what
Gotta write
activities
that
are you
down.
doing?
That
Yeah,
was good.
you'll read it in the book. Yeah,
Okay.
we prioritize together over to do. So instead of saying, here's all the activities that everybody's going to do, and we're going to do those in isolation, we started asking the question, how do we spend more time together, and then build individual activities around that. And so if one kid said, I want to do karate lessons, and I want to give those a try, we'd say, great, we're all going to try karate lessons. Let's do it together. Maybe we all love this. And if one kid's on a soccer team, then after every game, it was, we're going to get together and we're going to play soccer together as a family. So we'll cheer you on in your game, and then we're going to do things together. Let's make sure we have dinner together, even if it's not at the same time every night. Let's have an intentional dinner together as many times a week as we can. So as we started prioritizing together over to do, that really gave us insight on what activities can't we fit into our lives.
In 2018, I ate dinner with my family 10 times. And
Wow.
considering there are seven of us, and I do have twins, so they share a birthday. Okay, so there's 6 birthday dinners, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's.
Wow.
And maybe one other.
Yeah.
Because I was so
Yeah.
busy.
So, well, I mean, what's crazy is the most recent research that came out on family dinners found that there's good news and bad news. The good news is most families are eating dinner together 5 nights a week. That's pretty awesome. But the average time that they're together is between 9 and 12 minutes.
And is the
so,
TV
I mean,
on?
yeah, and probably the TV is on during that time, or they're in the car, they're grabbing fast food and stuffing it down, as they
So
go to the next activity.
when you say they're eating dinner together 5 nights a week, that could be in the car?
Well, it could be if you're intentional about it. And that's really the key. Is it's one thing to say all of our bodies are in the same space and we're all feeding ourselves at the same time. But it's a completely different thing and a much more intentional way of doing life to say, even if we've only got a short period of time together, every person share your highs and your lows for the day. What's one lesson that you learned today? Where did you fail today that you want to do differently tomorrow? What are you grateful for today? I mean, even little questions like that can turn a very short dinner into a very meaningful family experience.
So we got a new TV earlier this year. The TV that we had, my husband had had since early 2000s. It was still a flat screen, but back in the day when they cost a ridiculous amount of money. So we got this new TV. It's a smart TV, which we're still getting used to, right? Because we used to have the plug-in Roku.
Right.
But the old TV had a button that you could push on and off, right? Well, the smart TV doesn't have any buttons on it. You need the remote.
Right.
And my son lost the remote earlier this week. So it went into screensaver mode and then shut down. And we haven't been able to find the remote. But usually every single night, my husband lets one of our littles, and we've got 3, pick a movie to watch during dinner. Last night was the first dinner that I can remember in forever where there was not something on TV or an electronic distracting us. I absolutely loved it. Before we had the littles, before life really got crazy. And thank you. I want to go back there. We used to turn on K.L.I.V.E every night and listen to it during dinner, just for the music.
Yeah.
But I think if we don't go back to that even, last night's conversation at the table was inappropriate because they love using potty words. I mean, they're 5 and 6. Okay. So it was just ridiculous. But the act of just talking to each other was amazing. And with them going back to school, all of them finally in a couple weeks. I mean, we haven't had all of them in school in nearly 2 years.
Wow.
So, because we pulled them out of daycare, we pulled the younger ones out of daycare. So this will be the first time in a while that they've all been out of the house during the day. Please.
Yeah.
And please. And I would love to have the roundtable discussion. So what happened in your class today? What did you do?
Yeah.
And I would so appreciate it, kiddos, if I don't hear poop or fart during the conversation.
Well, I'll tell you, let me give you one other idea on this that, especially as you have older kids. So we just did an experiment with this summer and it has been awesome. We actually have each child plan and cook one meal a week. Now we have they have to create the menu or find it. They have to they can get help from a parent if they need to in making it, but they make the meal and then they have no responsibility for cleaning up afterwards. But it has to be healthy. It has to have a vegetable at least in there somewhere, and it has to be something that everyone in our family will at least eat or tolerate. It can't have like I hate peas, so I'm always no peas are involved in it. But it's been so good for us, and it's been such a really incredible opportunity to affirm our children and have really intentional dinners as well, where they're a contributing member of the family. So my youngest is 10, so they're a little bit older, but yeah, it's been really cool.
I love that. So my youngest won't be able to cook. Our house would burn down. And I'm horrible at cooking myself, but I would love that. And there's 7 of us. So, each of us could have that one night a week. And that would actually really, my husband does all the cooking because I do all the burning.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, by bringing that in, I could help.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It might not
Or
be
your
edible.
night could be the eat out night every week or something.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Yeah, maybe not. But thank you. That's an amazing idea. Listeners, I would love to hear what you have gathered as far as ahas go out of this episode so far. So if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you find out in the future when other videos go live. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure to head on over to the show notes page at thekimsutton.com/PP669. I had to remember what the episode number was for a second, and leave a comment down below, but also make sure to leave a rating and review on your listening platform, because your rating and review will help the show get further exposure. So thank you so much. I have enjoyed every single second of this, Garland. I am not stopping reading this. I mean, I enjoyed taking it out yesterday to the dentist. I have an eye appointment on Saturday, so I'm going to be taking it there too. Until I get it done, because more people need to know about how to become unbusy. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Where can listeners find you online, connect, and get to know more about you?
Yeah, so there's 2 places that I would really encourage them to go to. One is our company's website, which is Advance Leadership. So Advance, no D at the end. My last name is Vance, right? So advanceleadership.live. And that'll tell you about us as people and about some of the coaching and the products and services we offer. But you can also go to gettingunbusybook.com. And they can actually download 6 free chapters of the book. And so that way, it's Gettin, no G on the end, gettingunbusybook.com. And you can get 6 free chapters. And there's also a free assessment there that lets you see how you score against the 20 best practices of highly productive, unbusy people.
Gettingunbusy.com.
Gettingunbusybook.com.
Okay, I'm glad. I need to go there, and I want to see how I score. I'm writing that down right now. Listeners, I will leave that in the show notes what my score was. So I want to hear what yours
there you go.
was too. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. This is just a random question, but it popped up earlier this morning in my head. Do you drink coffee?
A lot of it, yes.
Okay, if you could design your perfect coffee cup right now, what would it say?
Ooh, well, I think I actually own my perfect coffee cup that was a gift to me. So I'm a big Disney fan, and my favorite character is Timon, right there, as you can see by the sticker. And a friend of mine gave me a Timon coffee mug that's 3D and hand painted. And every time I drink from that mug, I just get so happy. And so I think that's my perfect mug right now.
So happy?
So happy, yes.
Love it. I don't know, that question just popped up earlier in the day. My littles have been coming out to me and saying, "Mom, you need to set up a merch shop. They're watching too much YouTube. Go get my merch." So it's like, that could be interesting. Ask each guest what their perfect coffee cup would say.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
But that's just another idea and another way to make myself busy. I don't really need that right now. Do you have a parting piece of advice or a golden nugget that you can leave with listeners?
Sure, absolutely. So, so many people complain about being stressed out, about being overwhelmed, about being exhausted. And yet in the next breath, we brag about being busy. And that is the equivalent of somebody complaining about having lung cancer while bragging about the fact that they smoke 2 packs a day. Busyness literally is killing you, and there's a way out of it. And you deserve it to get out of that busyness so that you can live the life you actually want to live and are designed to live.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Positive Productivity Podcast. When I'm not podcasting, I'm supporting 6 to 7 figure business coaches with their marketing automation and entrepreneurs like you through my coaching and mastermind programs. I want to invite you to visit thekimsutton.com to learn how I can help you take your business to the next level.